Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So recently I have been doing a ton of themed reading vlogs, and as much as I love a good theme, I have really just been in the mood to do a little bit of mood reading. So I thought for today's vlog, we could just spend the weekend together and do a little bit of mood reading. And so I do actually have a couple of books that I got on Libby. Two of them were skip the line copies, which it's kind of like if I get to it, that's great. That's why I snagged them because they were skip the line. But if for some reason I can't complete it by the deadline or that's not what I'm in the mood for, that's okay. I'll just return it. But I am planning to read the first one that I have, which is Annihilation. And I feel like you can't really get all the great creepiness of this cover with it in black and white. But this is a really short book. It's the first one in what I think is a 4-book series right now. I'm not sure if there are going to be more, but it is about an expedition into an area called Area X, and there are 4 female scientists that are going to make this expedition. So all I really know is that there have been a lot of previous expeditions. This is the 12th one, and apparently different things have kind of happened to each expedition that have gone into Area X. So that's all I know about it, but I am really excited to read it. That's definitely going to be the first book that we get to in this vlog. And then after that, I also have Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So that's another option that I have to read. I did get that one as a skip the line copy as well. And I do have a few more days left on that one, but a quick little thriller. I believe that one's a thriller based on the title. I haven't read anything else by Geneva Rose, but I know that's one of her newer releases. So I could use that as kind of a quick book to get through. And then other than that, I'm really not sure where the reading vlog will take me. I am also listening to the audiobook for Wicked right now, which I have previously read that book. So the differences in the content between the book and the movie slash musical don't surprise me because this is a reread for me, but I am enjoying being back into that book. I definitely wanted a refresher on what some of those story differences were, and I've had the other books in that series on my shelf for a long time, but I haven't read them. So I'm definitely going to continue to listen to that audiobook this weekend. And then I might see if I can get one of those books from my August TBR off of my list because I've really been wanting to pick up Wild Love, which is the Elsie Silver book on that list, or I've been wanting to pick up The House in the Cerulean Sea. I would say both of those are pretty high on my priority list right now. So all that being said, I'm just going to see where my mood takes me. I'm going to go ahead and start Annihilation now, and I'll either give you an update at the halfway mark or when I finish the book. What is up, friends? It has been a little bit of time since that last clip. Nothing crazy, but a little bit of time since my intro. And in that time, I have finished both Annihilation and Wicked. And let's start with Wicked because that was a reread for me and it was a book that I was already super fond of. So obviously, I'm going to be a little biased the second time around. So I don't really feel like it's appropriate to assign a star rating to that because obviously it's a reread for me. I'm already fond of the book and I'm only going to be more fond of the book every time that I read it. However, I do want to say that I really, really appreciate book Elfie versus like the musical or the movie Elfie. I like that she really is not a just like misunderstood character. She definitely is misunderstood, but I like that she most definitely is not like the nicest character. She dealt with a lot, and I think that that has shaped a lot of how she interacts with other people. And I really kind of appreciate that about her. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed my reread. I liked seeing more of Nessa Rose's character. I think you see her in a totally different light in the book than you do in the musical, and I really appreciated that. I think there's a lot more depth to a lot of the characters in the book, which feels kind of obvious to me, but it's not an overly long book, so it's not that there's just more depth because it's so much more content. I just think it's the way that the story is built and the way that things are framed around the characters and their development from start to finish. So I'm really glad that I picked this up and reread it. It's been a long time since I originally read it, and I was kind of questioning if it was something that I really should have fond memories of just based on the fact that other people are kind of discovering the book now as people who have been fans of the movie or musical and they aren't necessarily loving the book. But I personally am still really fond of the book and the way that the plot moves throughout the book and the way that the characters change throughout the book. So, personally, still a favorite of mine. I definitely think that's a series that I will be adding to my series tracker and trying to keep up with moving forward. And then the other book that I finished was Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. And I just picked this up on a whim because it was available as a skip the line copy, as I previously mentioned. And I am so, so glad that I did. This horror novel was only about 200 pages, and I feel like those 200 pages were used so, so effectively. And I've talked about this a lot in some of my previous videos, but I am just obsessed with an author that can get their point across in fewer pages in a way that is so succinct and so impactful and just stays with you. Don't get me wrong, I love elegant prose, and I definitely liked the writing in this book. I wouldn't say that it was short and concise at the expense of the writing, but I really like when I just feel that an author is a master of their craft. They know the story they want to tell, and they know how to manipulate their writing to make that happen in the most impactful way. And I just felt like that is what this book did. I also learned today through talking with a friend that this might actually be a movie, and I'm not really a huge movie person, so I had no idea. But I'm definitely going to look into that now because they said if it was the same thing, if the book was the basis for the movie, then it was a really, really good movie. And what she described definitely sounded like the plot of the book. So I definitely want to check that out for sure. That being said, I've kind of sat with it for a minute and I kind of went back and forth of, is this a 5 star or is it lower? And to be honest with you, the book just gives me that 5 star feeling. I really am obsessed with it. I think I'm going to be thinking about it for a really long time because not only was it so scary, the way that this author crafted that feeling of being uncomfortable, being afraid, feeling like there's something behind you, like you want to look over your shoulder, they really just created that ambiance and that setting that really made me feel immersed into the book. And I also liked the way that it was told and the narrator that it was told through. And I found that although the narrator was kind of an unreliable narrator, it really was to the benefit of the character development from the start to finish of the book. So overall, I really, really appreciated the character study that was given. I thought the elements of the story that were presented, whether they were the physical things that you have to question, are they real? Is our main character actually experiencing these things? Are they actually running from them? Or if it was related to the character's backstory, all of that was just so, so well done. And I think I'm going to be thinking about it for a really long time. And I do think I'm going to go ahead and commit to it being a 5 star read. I don't really have any reservations about it being a 5 star. I think it was just so well done, but also so strange. And so I've just been sitting with it. But I do think it's going to stick with me for a long time and I would reread it. So I definitely think those two things definitely make it a 5 star in my mind. But that being said, I did have another skip the line book from Libby, and that was Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. And yesterday I was looking at my Libby in the midst of kind of listening to Wicked and reading Annihilation, and I realized that I actually only had a day left on Home is Where the Bodies Are, and I wasn't feeling super inspired to read it. So I went ahead and returned that Skip the Line copy, and I do still have a hold for it, but I'm not going to read it for this video. But I do have another thriller, and I have started reading The Fury. I'm only like a couple chapters in. I just went ahead and picked it up before I went to bed last night. And this is actually a read for one of my in-person book clubs. And so I'm really excited to get to this. We are meeting next week to talk about the full book. So I'm really motivated to read it. And based on the few chapters that I did read, I think I'm going to get through this super quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to read this, and I'll either update you at that 50% mark or when I finish it. And then I did start another audiobook as well. And the audiobook that I started is The Lost Apothecary, and I had to go ahead and start it because I needed something to listen to on my drive to work. So I'm literally only like a chapter or so in. I'm 4% into the book, but this is by Sarah Pinner, and I personally was not familiar with this book before. The cover looked kind of familiar, but it was available to borrow on Libby, and I've just been interested in reading some things that haven't kind of been in my face everywhere on TikTok and online. So I went ahead and picked this up, and I think it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely feeling like kind of a fall witchy vibe, and just based on the little 4% that I've read, I do think this might give me that. And the audiobook in total is a little over 10 hours, and I do normally listen to them on at least 2 times speed. I should finish the book in about 5 hours, so I'll probably be able to give you an update on that pretty quickly, because I typically listen to my audiobooks anytime I'm driving, doing chores, or cooking, things like that. So I should be able to give you an update when I am halfway through or when I finish that one as well. But these two books will probably be the last two that I'll get to in this mood reading vlog. I just want to keep it kind of short and simple and just keep it to what I feel like reading for this week. So I will update you soon. All right, time for an update. So I'm feeling a little worse for the wear today, but I do have news for you. So I did finish The Lost Apothecary, and I still don't feel like I've quite settled 100% on a rating for it, because I do feel like it was kind of basic. Like it was good. I would recommend it, but I don't think I'll ever really think about it again, to be honest with you. So it's probably falling somewhere in that like 3 to 4 star range for me. And I feel like giving it 3.5 feels too low, but honestly, it didn't really have any major emotional impact on me. So 3.5 is probably the most appropriate. And I think if I had been physically reading it as opposed to listening to the audiobook, I probably would have gotten a little bit bored with it. So I think somewhere in that 3 to 4 star range is going to be appropriate. Overall, I thought it was a cute book. I would recommend it if you're just wanting like a quick kind of witchy read. I like that this one was kind of giving witchy, but it wasn't 100% magic. So most of it is just based in like not potion making, but I guess like concoction making, essentially potion making or antidote making, those types of things. And then also the other storyline that's happening at the same time is kind of modern day, and it's kind of solving the mystery about what had happened in the past, while that character explores who she wants to be and how she wants to move forward in her life. So I really liked how the different storylines paralleled each other, because we had a young character and an older character who were both living in older times, and then we had a modern day character. I did like the different lines of character development being compared to one another. I liked those different plots and character stories, and I liked the way that they unfolded, because they all kind of face similar things throughout the same parts of the timeline in the way that the plot was presented in the book. So it was enjoyable, and I would recommend it if you're just wanting something quick. Obviously, if the audiobook is just available to pick up on Libby and you're looking for a quick read, I would say go for it. That's the way that I came into reading this book and I really enjoyed it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that one. And then I am about halfway through The Fury, and I have some kind of mixed feelings about this too. This seems to have lower ratings than The Silent Patient, and I'm starting to figure out why. I definitely think the pacing is pretty off in this one compared to The Silent Patient. I can't really say anything about any of this author's other books because that's the only one that I've read, but I definitely am just feeling like I don't want to say that I feel like the narrator is just mansplaining everything, which I have some thoughts and inklings about where we might be headed with the main character and what the twist is going to be towards the end of the book. But right now, I just feel like this narrator loves to hear themselves talk a lot. And that's kind of the way that it's coming across in the story. It's like when someone starts to tell you a story, but then they tell you every little nook and cranny, every single minute detail to get you from point A to point B. And then the punchline kind of loses its spark because of that. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this book so far. The good news is that the writing to me is still very fast paced writing. So even though I feel like the plot pacing is off, I am reading the book super quickly. So I do anticipate finishing this tonight and coming back to you for an update. And this will be the final book that I finish for this mood reading vlog. So stay tuned to hear my final thoughts on this. But I'm hoping that it continues to be pretty fast paced for me in terms of reading. And I'm hoping that it will have at least some kind of decent payoff or something interesting that's going to happen in the second half of this book. So hopefully I will see you in an hour or so to wrap things up. Well, good morning. I did finish The Fury last night, and unfortunately, I just wasn't feeling well. So that's why I am coming to you the next morning just to give you my final wrap up on this. But before we do that, I did realize that a package came in the mail yesterday that was relevant to this video, which unfortunately, I did have to get these from Amazon. I had a really hard time trying to find copies of these books. My local Barnes just didn't have them in stock, and so I wanted to get them because I want to continue the series. So I did have to pick these up from Amazon, although I do try to limit shopping there. And honestly, I love these covers. I need to find a copy of the first book, but these are books 2 and 3 after Annihilation that we read in this video. And I just love this cover art. I'm pretty sure these are re-releases with new art from when he originally released these books. But I just enjoyed the first book so much that I didn't want to wait and I wanted to go ahead and pick these up because it is September and I'm in the mood for all things spooky. I'm really excited to continue to read about Area X and uncover all of the scary things that might be hiding there. So I just wanted to show you that I did go ahead and pick these up. And I feel like that's also a great sign of a 5-star read when it's in a series and I immediately go to get the rest of the series because I legitimately cannot wait to get into these. So I'm sure you will hear more from me about these books in the future, whether they end up on my September reading wrap up or October. I'm definitely going to be prioritizing a lot more spooky books over the next couple months. So you will be hearing me talk about these soon, but I just wanted to show them to you because they're so pretty. I mean, they're horrifying, but they're gorgeous. Like, the reflectiveness on these books is stunning. So I can't wait to find a copy of the first one. I know that my Barnes regularly stocks the first one, and they just didn't have it in stock right now. So I am going to try to get that from them. And then there is a fourth one, and I need to try to source that and find it. So very excited to have these. But in a little bit less exciting news, let's talk about The Fury. So my feelings from my previous update were pretty much all still the same towards the end of the book. I still felt the same way I did about the narrator's voice and the way that the story was being told. And honestly, I saw the twist coming. I saw both of the twists coming. Well, I guess technically there's 3 twists, so I don't want to give anything away if you want to read this. But I did guess at everything that was going to happen. which is really, really unfortunate. So it wasn't even like there was something shocking that could have saved the story for me towards the end. So overall, I think it just fell a little bit flat for me. I think it had a really interesting premise and it probably could have worked. However, and I do feel kind of bad about this, in the author's note of this book, the author said that this writing process was the most enjoyable for him. It was one of his favorite books that he's written so far because he didn't create a map with an intense plot line before he started writing. He let it be more freeform, and he enjoyed that writing process more as a creative, but I think that it negatively affected the way that the book comes across. So I feel really bad to give that review saying I don't like how the book was formulated. I think that it affected the plot negatively. I think that it affected the reveals negatively. And then to find out that he really enjoyed writing it in this way because it was different from his normal process, from how he wrote his other two thriller books. So I feel really bad to give that review, but ultimately, I do think it negatively affected how the story read from start to finish. But that being said, I did rate this 3.5 stars. It wasn't miserable to read by any means. I still found it really interesting. I liked learning more about the characters. I think this author does a really good job of writing an unlikable character and then making you question, who is going to be the person that ultimately falls victim in the scenario? What's the twist going to be? I think that's the nice thing about his writing, is that there's going to be a twist, and he does a good job of keeping you on the edge of your seat waiting for that twist. I just think some of the meandering writing and the way that this one was told negatively affected that. But yeah, I still rated it 3.5 stars. I didn't hate reading it. It just wasn't my favorite thriller by far. So if you're somebody that enjoys his writing, I think it's good to pick up. I think you could have a good time reading this, but I don't think that I'll be thinking about it much now that I've finished it. And I am really curious to talk with my book club. We're meeting next week, so I'm interested to see what everybody else thought about it and to see if they anticipated the twists and the turns coming. I think there are some things in the book physically in the way that it's formatted that kind of give away a lot of what's supposed to be surprising, or at least what I think was supposed to be surprising at the end of the book. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. A solid 3.5. It's not a bad book. It just wasn't my favorite. And then just to give a quick review, the book I finished before that one was The Lost Apothecary, which I also rated 3.5 stars. And then before that, we talked about both Wicked and Annihilation, which technically I would say are both 5-star reads for me, but I chose not to rate Wicked just because this was a reread. It's very nostalgic for me because I read it when I was younger, but I definitely still love that story and I enjoyed listening to that audiobook to revisit it. And Annihilation was a new find for me. I think the book has been out for over 10 years, but this is the first time that it's really come up. And I have Libby to thank for that because it was available as a skip the line copy, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to reading more of Jeff Vandermeer's work, and I do think he is going to be a new favorite author for me. So I'll be excited to see at the end of the year, once I've read more of his stuff, how I feel about that. But yeah, I think this was a really good mood reading vlog. We kind of had some highs and lows here, but thankfully no low lows, nothing below a 3-star. So overall, I would say that felt pretty successful to me, and I enjoyed getting to read some different things and some different genres throughout this. So thanks for hanging out with me. If you're currently mood reading, let me know what you're in the mood for, what books you're picking up down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so, so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.